Welcome to Inside Taiwan. I'm Natalie So. President Tsai Ing-wen says Taiwan-U.S. relations will continue to be strong under U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's administration. That's because Taiwan and the U.S. share similar values and interests. The American Institute in Taiwan says the U.S.'s Taiwan policy will be consistent and relations will continue to develop positively.
After the results of the U.S. presidential election were announced, President Tsai Ing-wen sent President-elect Donald Trump a congratulatory message. Tsai says Taiwan and the U.S. have worked together closely on various fronts in recent years, and Taiwan will continue to be a close and reliable partner for the U.S. While attending an industrial event, Tsai also called for closer bilateral ties now that the election is over. Following Trump's win, Taiwan's stock index tumbled. Tsai addressed the nation, saying Taiwan must know its place, and national security agencies have completed comprehensive election-related assessments. Trump's Asia-Pacific policies are unclear, but the Republican Party has a Taiwan-friendly platform. American Institute in Taiwan Director Kim Moy says the U.S.'s Taiwan policy will remain consistent and bilateral relations will continue moving forward.
Will Taiwan and U.S. ties change now that Donald J. Trump is headed to the White House? Foreign Affairs Minister David Lee says several weeks ago Trump sent an envoy to Taiwan to meet with President Tsai Ing-wen. The envoy told Tsai that Taiwan is an indispensable strategic partner for the U.S. in the Asia-Pacific region.
The United States elected Donald J. Trump as its new president on November 8th. In Taiwan, the talk has focused on whether there will be changes in Taiwan's relationship with the U.S. and the effects of the election outcome on Taiwan. Foreign Affairs Minister David Lee says Trump sent an envoy to Taiwan several weeks ago to meet with President Tsai Ing-wen. The envoy told Tsai that Taiwan is an indispensable strategic partner in the Asia-Pacific region. Meanwhile, Interior Minister Ye Junrong said the election outcome should not have an immediate impact on Taiwan. Many wonder if Trump will relax restrictions on arms sales to Taiwan. Legislators say the answer won't be clear until Trump decides on his cabinet members. With regards to how Taiwan will approach the U.S. in the future, Lee said it is still too early to discuss the details, as nothing will be clear until Trump decides on his foreign affairs team. In past administrations, Assistant Secretaries of State were not approved until May or June. The Taipei Economic and Cultural Representative Office will arrange to meet with Trump's transition team in the next several days.
In the aftermath of the U.S. presidential election, many are worried about the effects of a Trump presidency on the global economy. Most believe that the Trans-Pacific Partnership will be set aside. Minister of Economic Affairs Lisa Guang says that Taiwan will work towards stronger economic cooperation with all nations and towards new economic ties with the U.S.
Trump surprised many around the globe by winning the U.S. presidential election. Pambu legislators blasted President Tsai Ing-wen for supporting the wrong candidate. They asked what should be done if Taiwan-U.S. relations worsen. In reply, Minister of Economic Affairs Li Shiguang says that right after Trump's victory, they met to discuss how to respond to any changes in Taiwan and U.S. economic and trade relations. During the campaign, Trump spoke of returning manufacturing jobs to the U.S. Even the Trans-Pacific Partnership may end after President Obama leaves office. The ministry says that it is already working on identifying economic and trade countermeasures for domestic industries. The legislators say that entry into the TPP may turn out to be futile, and current cross-strait relations would make it difficult to enter the regional comprehensive economic partnership. Taiwan must sign free trade agreements with each nation to be globally competitive. After the U.S. election, Taiwan will face new challenges in global trade and economic relations.
The Taiwan Institute of Economic Research recently announced next year's economic growth rate could reach 1.65% on the back of strong semiconductor exports. But the rate is not expected to reach 2% due to global factors such as U.S. President-elect Donald J. Trump's trade protectionism, higher U.S. interest rates, and Brexit.
The Taiwan Institute of Economic Research has announced its GDP forecast for 2017. It says strong semiconductor exports could push the growth rate up by 0.48 percentage points to 1.65%. However, the rate could be affected by many outside factors, including American President-elect Donald J. Trump's trade protectionism, Brexit, and a rise in U.S. interest rates. This means it may not reach 2%. The TIER says although the growth rate may hit 1.65% next year, the private consumption rate is expected to fall from last year's 2.03% to 1.81%. The main reason is because salary levels are not rising. It adds Trump is expected to adopt more stringent economic protection measures, and hot money should flow back to the U.S. on the back of rising interest rates. Taiwan will be affected, and it advises the government to make preparations. The TIER says Taiwan could also follow the example of Japan's auto industry and establish production factories in the U.S. to avoid tariffs and trade sanctions.
Taiwan's representative to Japan, Frank Hsieh, recently went to the legislature to report on Taiwan-Japan issues. He was asked about Japan's request to export Fukushima food products to Taiwan. Hsieh said the Japanese government is simply reflecting the wishes of its farmers. Regarding how Trump's presidency would affect Taiwan-Japan ties, Hsieh said Taiwan and Japan should strengthen cooperation.
During an interpellation held by the Legislative Foreign and National Defense Committee, Representative to Japan Frank Hsieh reported on the recent Japan-Taiwan meeting on oceanic cooperation. Some legislators raised questions, saying that Taiwan failed to win back fisheries rights and only set up a platform for a dialogue and agreed to hold meetings for individual issues. The fisheries agency is hoping to reach a peaceful fisheries agreement with Japan before the next fishing season in March. Hsieh took the podium and said that the previous Taiwan-Japan fisheries agreement was reached after 17 years of negotiations. Signing an agreement in haste may not be the best for Taiwan's interest. Some KMT legislator raised the question that Japan's real motive for the meeting is not to discuss fishing rights, but to export Fukushima food products containing radiation to Taiwan. Speaking of Trump winning the U.S. presidential election, Frank Hsieh believes that it would strengthen Taiwan and Japan relations. He said that in the future, it is uncertain that the U.S. would continue to focus on affairs in Asia, and a stronger bond between Taiwan and Japan is a win-win situation for both.
The annual UN Climate Change Conference recently opened in Marrakesh. Unlike last year, the Minister of Taiwan's Environmental Protection Administration was not able to attend due to Chinese opposition. Now, with Donald Trump elected president, it's uncertain if the U.S. will adhere to the agreement.
The Paris Agreement was signed at last year's UN Climate Change Conference in France. The agreement was ratified on November 4th, and this year's conference opened 3 days later in Marrakesh. Unlike last year, however, the Minister and Deputy Minister of Taiwan's Environmental Protection Administration were barred from attending. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has said on many occasions that he believes climate change is a hoax, and it remains to be seen whether he will revoke the agreement. The Paris Agreement had a threshold of at least 55 parties to the convention, accounting for at least 55% of total global greenhouse gas emissions. There are concerns that if the U.S. revokes its ratification of the agreement, the threshold will no longer be met, and the agreement will become invalid.
The Judicial Yuan's first judicial reform proposal is to make Supreme Court sessions more transparent. The Supreme Prosecutor's Office will also establish a new public prosecution unit. Justice Minister Cho Tai-sam believes these measures will help make up for the shortcomings of written proceedings.
The Judicial Yuan has proposed making Supreme Court sessions more transparent as part of its first wave of judicial reforms. In line with this proposal, the Supreme Prosecutor's Office will establish a public prosecution unit. The purpose of this proposal is to regularize the transparency of judicial proceedings. The Supreme Court normally only examines written proceedings and only allows for arguments in cases related to the death penalty or other special circumstances. The Ministry of Justice and the Judicial Yuan have already reached a consensus on this issue to allow for greater debate over important cases. They hope this will boost public confidence in the legal system. Judicial reform groups approve of this proposal. Meanwhile, the presidential office is expected to announce a list of 15 names for its Judicial Reforms Committee shortly.
To resolve the dispute over amendments to the Labor Standards Act, the legislature's Social Welfare and Environmental Hygiene Committee reviewed footage of the first reading of the draft. The first reading took place on October 5th. After cross-party negotiations, there was finally a breakthrough. They agreed to no boycotts by any party, and the Democratic Progressive Party caucus agreed to send the draft back to committee.
On November 9th, the Legislative Social Welfare and Environmental Hygiene Committee reviewed footage and minutes of the first reading of revisions to the Labor Standards Act. The Media, Legislative Yuan Procedure Committee, Kuomintang, and New Power Party all submitted their own videos of the review. In the version submitted by the media, lawmakers could clearly be heard shouting yes when the chair of the review asked if there were any objections. In the version submitted by the chair, however, the calls had been edited out. Outside, labor groups and workers staged a hunger strike and called on the Tsai administration to hear their voices and give them back their holidays. During cross-party negotiations, lawmakers agreed to two conditions proposed by the Democratic Progressive Party caucus, including shelving the review for 1 month after the committee review and no boycotts by any party. In exchange, the DPP agreed to send the draft back to committee. A hearing will be held on the 15th before a 2-day review is held. Labor groups blasted lawmakers, saying their hunger strike will continue because lawmakers are going through the motions and have no intentions of actually, truly reviewing the draft.
国民汉字须知，带您学汉字，学好字。本周我们又要到哪里去学习什么字呢？
根据统计我的不同说法要高达36种。
我的用法竟然高达36种，秀琴有办法找出我的正确用字吗？
摩托车这个字，那我们说过它是一个外来语，对不对？是的，那摩这个字跟摩天大楼是不是一样？换言之，摩天大楼是不是外来语呢？
究竟摩天大楼是不是外来语？你知道吗？
你知不知道冰的台语要怎么讲？
我就知道阿兵哥，可是讲到冰的台语，我真的不是很清楚。
而冰的台语要怎么念？你知道吗？想知道更多的汉字知识吗？敬请锁定国民汉字须知，带您一起学汉字，学好字。
印尼是世界上除了台湾及中国大陆以外，华人最多的国家。根据可考的历史文载，最初华人移民至印尼可追溯到西元879年。由于人数日益增加，许多华侨组织也开始以不同的形式发展起来。而其中广肇同乡由于人数众多，加上团体遍及印尼各地，因此成立印尼广肇总会，凝聚向心力。而在会员当中，多数经商有成，并且与台湾有着许多成功的经贸合作关系。由于广肇总会乡亲人数多达500万人，多年来推动学生来台就学，成效相当卓著。
我们印尼这边的一些学生，因为断层了大概30多年的中文教育，为了提升这个印尼竞争力，所以我们就推广教育到台湾去深造。
为了凝聚广肇会员向心力，广肇总会除了与我国推动交流之外，并自组合唱团参与各种慈善义演，在许多印尼主流的公开场合上传唱中文歌曲，让更多人听见中文之美。相信在广肇总会的积极努力下，能让中华文化在印尼继续传承下去。
Welcome back to Inside Taiwan. I'm Natalie So. Taiwan experienced several typhoons in September that destroyed crops and pushed prices up. This month, the average vegetable price has reached a new high of 49 NT dollars per kilogram. Meanwhile, the supply of cabbage in December is expected to exceed demand due to excessive farming after the typhoons. Agriculture departments are thus urging farmers to stop growing cabbage to prevent the price from crashing.
Many types of vegetables suffered damage during the consecutive typhoons in September, resulting in higher prices. Farmers rushed to replant crops, but may have overdone it. According to Agriculture and Food Agency statistics, the number of hectares planted with cabbage in October was 100 hectares over the standard of 180 hectares. The government intends to begin exporting some of the cabbages next month to prevent the price from crashing. However, cabbage farmers say this measure will not help them because there are very few export channels at present. They favor stricter supervision at the source. Yunlin County's Agriculture Department says the primary sources of cabbage are Yunlin and Zhanghua. The warmer temperatures this year caused many farmers to delay planting until the end of September. Many farmers also plant cabbage or Chinese cabbage after the second rice harvest. Yunlin presently has 1,200 hectares of land planted with cabbage. As the cabbage was planted in stages, the vegetable will not hit the market at the same time. The department urges farmers to stop planting cabbage to prevent the price from crashing.
A brand new strain of the deadly Lisa virus has been discovered in Taiwan. In July, a Tainan resident found a Japanese house bat and sent it to the Council of Agriculture. The bat was found to have contracted a virus that is 80% similar to the rabies virus and is toxic. It is not yet known whether the virus is contagious to humans.
In July this year, a Tainan resident found a dead bat on the roadside and sent it to the Council of Agriculture. After testing, the bat was found to contain a brand new strain of Lisa virus, which has never been recorded before. It is 80% in similarity to the rabies virus. The rabies virus and the Lisa virus are widely spread, and people who come into contact with virus-carrying mammals may cross-contaminate each other. Since the Lisa virus found on the bat is the first of its kind, it is not yet known whether it can infect human beings. The incubation period for both rabies virus and Lisa virus could be long or short, but once the disease takes hold, death is almost certain. The incubation time and morbidity rate of the latest Lisa virus require further research. All 5 people who came into contact with the new virus have received vaccinations and no disease symptoms have appeared. The Bureau of Animal and Plant Health Inspection and Quarantine advises the public not to try and catch wild animals. Anyone who discovers dead bats should avoid handling the carcasses by hand. Anyone who has been bitten or scratched by a bat after July or came into contact with bat secretions are advised to get tested as soon as possible.
Tsanggong Memorial Hospital researchers have released a new study that says suppressing microRNA 17 can restore the functions of regulatory T cells. In the future, this may have applications for lupus nephritis treatments and prevent rejections after organ transplants. The study has been published in an international journal.
A 17-year-old girl with lupus nephritis died after her immune system turned on her own organs. According to National Health Insurance data, lupus affects 64 out of every 100,000 people in Taiwan. Half of all lupus patients, around 6,000 in Taiwan, also have lupus nephritis. A new Chang'e Memorial Hospital study gives patients new hope. The research team found that mice produce interleukin-6 when they are infected, which short-circuits the immune system's regulatory T cells and sometimes results in autoimmune enteritis. The team later discovered that suppressing microRNA 17 can stop interleukin-6 attacks and restore the function of regulatory T cells. The study is still in the animal testing phase, and safety risks will have to be evaluated if the study proceeds to human clinical trials. The discovery may also have applications for organ transplants and reducing the likelihood of organ rejection. The study has been published in an international journal.
Many schools hold sports competitions in November and December, but the air quality during this period is not ideal. Taichung environmental groups recently asked the city's Education Bureau to establish a unified policy to allow the cancellation of sports events when the particulate matter 2.5 concentration is high. In response, the Bureau said the central government's policy is to respect the decisions of schools as long as they aren't illegal.
Environmental groups recently gathered outside Taichung City Hall. They asked the city's Education Bureau to establish a unified policy for the cancellation of school sporting events when the particulate matter 2.5 concentration reaches the highest level. Many parents and students also demanded that Taichung City Mayor Ling Jialong roll out a practical air pollution policy. In response, the Bureau said the Ministry of Education has the policy of respecting the decisions of schools as long as they conform to regulations. It added the number of air quality monitoring stations and the frequency of testing can both be increased to create more data. Several Taichung schools have already decided to postpone outdoor activities if the air quality is not optimal. The environmental groups say education authorities should have a unified policy instead of putting all the responsibility on schools. They add some physical education teachers even make the students decide. As such, only a clear-cut standard will be able to protect the health of students.
The Ministry of Education has drafted revisions with a revolving door clause that prevents high-ranking ministry officials from taking principal or board of director positions at private schools within 3 years of leaving the ministry. Higher education groups say the draft is incomplete and the ministry should ban its officials from taking any paid positions at private schools after resigning or retiring.
Former Deputy Education Minister Chen Lehua resigned from his post not too long ago and is currently a lecturer at a private school. Former Department of Technological and Vocational Education Deputy Director Rao Bang-an, meanwhile, is currently the Chief Secretary at another private school. The Ministry of Education has drafted a revolving door revision that bars high-ranking ministry officials from taking principal or board of director positions at private schools within 3 years of resigning or retiring, but high-paid positions like lecturer and chief secretary are excluded. The Taiwan Higher Education Union says many schools hire former ministry officials to use their connections to get grants or subsidies. They are calling on the ministry to ban all former officials from taking any paid positions at private schools. However, the ministry says its revisions will not be affected by individual cases, and there needs to be a balance between public and individual working rights. The ministry says this is why the clause only applies to former department heads and above.
Taipei plans to expand test-free admissions for high schools in the coming school year. Private high schools can admit students without exam scores, and students may apply for majors without taking the comprehensive assessment program for junior high school students. The city encourages students to enroll in majors they are interested in and in schools close to their home. About 2,000 admission-free slots will be open next year for public high schools.
The Vocational and High School Test-Free Admission Program launched in Taipei City this year allows junior high school graduates to choose their high schools early. 2 students who enrolled through the program says that it is most important to choose a school based on one's interest. The Taipei Department of Education plans to expand the test-free admission program. The first method allows private high schools to admit students without considering test scores from the comprehensive assessment program for junior high school students. The second method is available for public and private schools, each opening up 20% of enrollments for up to 2,000 slots to encourage students to enroll in schools nearby and to study subjects matching their interests. Some private schools are in favor of expanded test-free admission, which gives them more students and diversify admission methods. The Department of Education says that test-free admissions will be handled prior to the outcome of the comprehensive assessment program for junior high school students. After the exam results are out, students have the flexibility to give up on prior admissions and choose to enroll elsewhere.
World-renowned percussionist Jimmy Morales recently traveled to Taiwan to teach indigenous children how to play the drums. Many of the children were very happy to have the opportunity to learn drumming techniques and tempos.
World-renowned percussionist Jimmy Morales performs on his signature instrument, the conga drum. He recently traveled to Taiwan to teach drumming to indigenous children in Hualien at the invitation of the Social Welfare Foundation. The foundation recently purchased $2 million NT worth of percussion instruments for Hualien Jiaming Elementary School and arranged for weekly sessions with teachers. Morales was born in the state of Connecticut in the United States to Puerto Rican parents. After his family moved to Puerto Rico, He became fascinated by Caribbean music, particularly salsa. In the 1980s, he began performing around the world and even released his own line of conga drums. Since then, he has taught in many places to help spread the art of conga drumming.
What is your view about Taiwan's educational system? And what are some of the recommended or needed reforms to make it more competitive for the 21st century? On the next Taiwan Outlook, we will have a conversation with Mr. David Wilson, who's a co-founder of the Foundation for Talented Youth, on the steps being taken to empower youth in Taiwan. I'll see you next time on Macroview Television.
因为饮食西化的影响，台湾糕饼的需求与竞争越来越激烈，也直接带动了台湾糕饼产业的创新。创立30多年的老字号饼店景田食品，是2014年高雄绿豆椪大赛传统组的金牌奖得主。景田的卤肉绿豆椪，外皮薄如薄棉，层层堆叠，里面包的绿豆沙酥松化口，细致无比，而肉燥味道独特鲜明，香味绕口，持久不散，因此获得评审的青睐，勇夺传统组的金牌。
我们除了保有传统的口味，为了国人的健康，我们改成低油低糖，口感不变，欢迎侨胞回来品尝。
以创意糕饼闻名的不二家饼店，则勇于尝试用新的食材烘焙出新的造型糕饼，屡次在糕饼大赛中脱颖而出。同样是绿豆椪，不二家大胆采用芒果来做馅料，综合3种芒果滋味的创意绿豆椪，外形就像是芒果。而这一款番茄滋味的绿豆椪，用cheese来提味，造型也像番茄，吃起来口感大不同。
口感吃起来的话，就是非常的清爽酸甜，然后不油不腻。
主打夏日轻食甜点的诺贝尔饼店推出日式奶冻卷，强调当令食材先买先吃。草莓奶冻卷叫好又叫座，而红豆、香草、芒果、芋头奶冻卷也颇受欢迎。创意台湾糕饼大不同，侨胞回国千万别错过。
Welcome back to Inside Taiwan. Let's take a look at what's happening in Taiwan's cultural scene. That's what's happening inside Taiwan. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Natalie So. See you tomorrow.